Alright, so this demo is going to be going through how to just begin shading your drawing. A couple of things that I recommend. Obviously, we're working with an HB pencil. You want to keep this sharp. So I do have my pencil sharpener on hand if you have one. That's going to be very useful. The other thing would be obviously your eraser. But as you're drawing, a couple things that I always do is make sure that I'm not just focusing on one area. I want to cycle through the whole piece. So when I'm drawing, I'm not just sticking, with the eye. I might start there, but eventually I'm going to maybe bounce around. I'm just going to kind of spiral out of that. And I'm always going to be making corrections. I might, as I'm drawing, realize that something's not right. Something doesn't look, in terms of like size or placement, it may not be correct. So I might need to fix that as well. But the big thing is you want to stay honest with yourself still. So you want to be paying attention to subtle changes. Everything I'm doing is just going to be controlling the pressure with my pencil to create that value. So I'm just going to start at the eye here, just because that is an area that's a little bit darker already. And I tend to like to start with my darkest areas. The areas that are really pitch black or near it, just so I can kind of see what to compare my lights to, and my middle tones. I think it just helps. So I'm kind of looking, and it's a little bit more difficult maybe with the iPad because you don't see, some of the subtle changes in the darks as much, but again, everything I'm doing here is just keeping my pressure controlled as I add value. Okay, and clearly that's not dark enough yet, but it will be. I'm going to build this up. I'm probably not going to get like super obsessed here with what's going on. One thing I'm looking at now as I'm doing the eye, the whites of the eye, even if I squint, I love to squint at drawings just because it helps me see that contrast, helps me see like where are the lights, where are the darks really, is there a white there? And so that's something that I constantly do just to kind of help myself interpret the values. And again, if I go a little bit too dark, it's not a big deal. I can always pull that back out. So going in with an eraser. But here, as I build up in this part of the eye, there's a lot of really subtle values. The other thing I want to point out here is like, areas like the eye, there are folds, to the skin, especially if you're kind of squinting like I am in this photo. But I don't want to make like everything doesn't need to be an outline. Sometimes it's a dark area meets a light area, and that's how that line or that visual representation of a line is created. So it's not all just outlines. Okay, so sometimes values create the line. It's not an actual straight drawn line. This would be a good area too to kind of point that out. There are folds in the nose. Again, it's not just line. Sometimes that value changes and makes up the what looks like a line. Now, some things that are going to be lined are going to be your eyelashes. I kind of avoided that on the eye this first pass through. But if I am going to go in there, like that would be an area I'm probably going to go in now and just sharpen my pencil a little bit. But looking at just, how the eyelashes appear here, like this is pretty linear. So, and I'm not going to make them up. I'm going to go in, I'm going to interpret what I'm seeing there. Some of them are a little bit thicker too. I want to make sure I pull that out. There's some like little ones that are even popping up, it looks like. Okay, so again, I want to translate all this. And you can see that, sharpening your pencil a little bit does help quite a bit in terms of giving yourself control, because now you got this really small tip that you're able to, control, and it just gives you that extra little ounce of detail that you might need to an area. I'm going to go in here because really like this dark part of the eye is like not dark enough for me, and it's kind of bothering me, so I'm going to go in and continually build that up. That'll probably be something I'm just going to have to keep coming back to and keep paying attention to, because it's just not going to make me happy until it's looking right. Now this would be an area too. You know, there are lines in there. The folds in the skin do have those lines, and I want to darken those in. Okay, bouncing out of the eye itself, let's go up to maybe the eyebrow. You know, for me, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do probably a series of lines where I see them and allow that to build up, and I kind of just do like marks that are kind of moving that direction of my eyebrow. You know, if I see a lash or something, you know, I want to make sure that that does stand out. Okay, if I do see it as a line, I'm going to draw it in like that. Okay, it's not just going to be a wad of darkness, or, you know, it's not just going to be a wad of value. I want to go in, I want to press, I want to make up this this visual, you know, how it looks. I want it to look realistic. So now, even like looking at just that one area, obviously coming along a lot more than the others, you know, just putting in that little bit of time here that I have so far, and having those darks are going to help just make stuff look a little more realistic right away. Because like when you have like your eyebrows and your pupils and your iris just sitting there completely plain, it really doesn't help the visual. It doesn't look very realistic because you don't have those darks in there. But again, like looking at comparative like things, like, you know, how dark one area is to another, you know, like this, the eyebrow for me is really pretty dark. I want to make sure I get that value in. Then even looking at this area, you know, it does switch. It's dark, but it's maybe not pitch black. But I need that. Now I'm turning my pencil a little bit sideways here. But again, I'm just controlling pressure. And I'm doing like little circular motions here to kind of build that value up. You know, I'm just constantly moving my vision as I'm drawing, bouncing back and forth, double checking information. Something that doesn't look right. And, you know, the tendency is to, like, when you're drawing, get real close and kind of, you know, hone in on an area, or like not back away. So after I do a little bit of value, I'll probably take a little step back, analyze what I've done, make some decisions, and keep going. So all right, and so, you know, this so far has already taken me, this, you know, one area has taken me probably 10 to 15 minutes, you know, just kind of time-lapsing it through, but you can see how far I've come, but also, you know, it's got a lot of work to do. So, you know, if you're putting in 30 minutes a day, you know, this piece, to get it to a point where it's really looking good and really finalized, is gonna take some time. You know, this might take me several hours to get to the point where I'm happy with it myself. So I recommend, you know, sitting down for a while, maybe going through. Again, I'm kind of spiraling out. I'm not like over obsessing in one area. I'm trying, you know, I am staying in this one area, but you know, eventually I'm going to start rolling out of here and working, and, you know, just going to other spots on the drawing and just kind of bouncing around. So you don't want to spend all your time in just one spot and overwork that spot, or get that spot to a complete point that might be finished. You know, for a couple reasons, but, you know, one of them too, you may notice in the process here that something isn't right, you know, and you might need to correct that. So even though you've maybe worked on an area, you may need to erase that area. You may need to fix it. All right, so don't be frustrated with that. That's just part of drawing. I'm just going to lay in some of this hair before I finish, just so I can kind of, again, have another. Now, one thing I'm definitely noticing here is this right. You know, that's something, I think I probably pushed that over a little bit too far towards the eye, so I'm going to move that back a little bit. Again, just making subtle corrections there. And then I'm going to put that value in all on this edge here. Looking at it now, you know, this dark really takes over this corner. So I'm going to go in and just kind of put the value in, you know, real lightly, just so that there's some, and gives me a better visual idea of what's going on there. Even though I may need to change it up a little. Like I think here, maybe it's coming down just a little bit too much. I'll probably push that up a little bit. So please make sure that you're posting your progress, you're double checking stuff, you're being honest with yourself, and you know, like I said, try to put in about 30 minutes per day. We'll build this up. We'll definitely be working into next week on this project. So good luck, and talk soon.